Section 42 of Gray's Anatomy, Part 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by David Lawrence. Anatomy of the Human Body, Part 1, by Henry Gray. The Phalanges of the Hand. Phalanges digitorum manus. The phalanges are 14 in number, 3 for each finger and 2 for the thumb. Each consists of a body and 2 extremities. The body tapers from above downward, is convex posteriorly, concave in front from above downward, flat from side to side. Its sides are marked by ruff, which give attachment to the fibrous sheaths of the flexor tendons. The proximal extremities of the bones of the first row present oval, concave articular surfaces, broader from side to side than from before backward. The proximal extremity of each of the bones of the second and third rows present a double concavity separated by a median ridge. The distal extremities are smaller than the proximal, and each ends in 2 condyles separated by a shallow groove. The articular surface extends farther on the volar than on the dorsal surface, a condition best marked in the bones of the first row. The ungual phalanges are convex on their dorsal and flat on their volar surfaces. They are recognized by their small size, and by a roughened, elevated surface of a horseshoe form on the volar surface of the distal extremity of each, which serves to support the sensitive pulp of the finger. Articulations. In the forefingers, the phalanges of the first row articulate with those of the second row, and with the metacarpals. The phalanges of the second row with those of the first and third rows, and the ungual phalanges with those of the second row. In the thumb, which has only 2 phalanges, the first phalanx articulates by its proximal extremity with the metacarpal bone, and by its distal with the ungual phalanx. Ossification of the bones of the hand. The carpal bones are each ossified from a single center, and ossification proceeds in the following order: in the capitate and hamate during the first year, the former preceding the latter; in the triangular during the third year; in the lunate and greater multangular during the 5th year, the former preceding the latter; in the navicular during the 6th year; in the lesser multangular during the 8th year, and in the pisiform about the 12th year. Occasionally an additional bone, the os central, is found on the back of the carpus, lying between the navicular, less multangular, and capitate. During the 2nd month of fetal life it is represented by a small cartilaginous nodule, which usually fuses with the cartilaginous navicular. Sometimes the styloid process of the third metacarpal is detached and forms an additional ossicle. The metacarpal bones are each ossified from 2 centers, 1 for the body and 1 for the distal extremity of each of the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th bones, 1 for the body and 1 for the base of the first metacarpal bone. The first metacarpal bone is therefore ossified in the same manner as the phalanges, and this has led some anatomists to regard the thumb as being made up of 3 phalanges, and not of a metacarpal bone and 2 phalanges. Ossification commences in the middle of the body about the 8th or 9th week of fetal life, the centers for the 2nd and 3rd metacarpals being the first, and that for the first metacarpal the last to appear. About the 3rd year the distal extremities of the metacarpals of the fingers and the base of the metacarpal of the thumb begins to ossify. They unite with the bodies about the 20th year. The phalanges are each ossified from 2 centers, 1 for the body and 1 for the proximal extremity. Ossification begins in the body about the 8th week of fetal life. Ossification of the proximal extremity commences in the bones of the first row between the 3rd and 4th years, and a year later in those of the 2nd and 3rd rows. The 2 centers become united in each row between the 18th and 20th years. In the ungual phalanges, The centers of the body appear in the distal extremities of the phalanges, instead of the middle of the bodies, as in the other phalanges. Moreover, of all the bones in the hand, the ungual phalanges are the first to ossify. [Footnote: Alan Thompson demonstrated the fact that the first metacarpal bone is often developed from 3 centers. That is to say, there is a separate nucleus for the distal end, forming a distinct epiphysis visible at the age of 7 or 8 years. He also stated that there are traces of a proximal epiphysis in the second metacarpal bone.] End of section 42. Recording by David Lawrence, Brampton, Ontario, September 2008.